So good morning, everyone, and welcome to this week's meeting of the Tacoma Pierce County Coalition to End Homelessness. I hope you're having a good Friday so far, that you have some coffee or tea or whatever gets you going in the morning. And let's get started. Ed, would you like to kick us off this morning?
Sure, thank you, Rob. I'm doing the welcome this morning because Rosemary can't be here, and it may be a little problematic because she gave a microphone to a preacher, so I'll try and keep it short. Today, I welcome everyone to our open table. When we take time each week to learn about efforts to respond to homelessness in Pierce County and renew our commitment to actions promoting safe and secure housing for all, we gather on the homelands of the Puyallup tribe of Indians who have stewarded this coastal home for thousands of years. We call ourselves to listen and to uplift the voices and experiences of the indigenous people of this land and beyond. Thank you for reaching out beyond yourselves to care about the homeless. Next Wednesday, December 21st, we will honor 167 people who died while being homeless in 2020 in Pierce County. We join a national campaign to remember all who died while being homeless. These are people who have not been remembered in a service. We use the word remembered. However, it truly doesn't fit because most of these people we don't know and we'll never know. So instead, I use the word honored. Yes, honored as fellow human beings without the mantle of earning an honor. So when you sit down to enjoy Christmas with your family and friends, please take a moment just to yourself, a quick moment to think about these 167 people and remember the service that honored them. And then turn back to your celebration with a full heart that you honored them just for a moment. Or better yet, attend the service on Wednesday, December 21st at Shiloh Baptist Church. It will be at 6 p.m. and we will send out a notice. One other thing, I call on us today to be able to discuss, teach, argue for the cause of homeless people in Pierce County passionately with each other, while honoring the people we are talking with in today's meeting. Honor all, not because they held office or a position of power. Honor them for being fellow human beings that are reaching out to talk about a very important subject. And with that, I will turn it back over to Rob.
Thank you, Ed. And I do hope that everyone has an opportunity to attend. I know we will have some weather between now and the memorial service, but if folks can get there, I think it would be a good way to honor those who we all work so hard throughout the year to try to advocate for and find solutions for in our community. Before we move on with the meeting, I wanted to briefly share the coalition meeting norms and our community norms. So usually Rosemary kind of walks through these briefly. I wanted to put them on screen today just as a reminder. Our Zoom norms, please mute yourself when you're not talking. Use Zoom's raise hand function if you're able, if you have something to say. And try to limit distractions by turning off your camera if you need to take another call or do something that's going to be distracting on screen. And then I urge you to take a moment, I'll keep these on screen, to take a look at the community norms. Among them, we ask that folks lead with a racial equity lens during these meetings, that we stay aware of power dynamics, and that we, keep the conversation civil and challenge concepts, not people. We're all here to learn, and we want to hear from everyone. So please take space and make space as the meeting goes on. So we're going to depart already from the agenda here at the beginning of the meeting, so that we can turn the floor over to Pierce County Councilmember Jani Hitchen. Jani, you wanted to offer a quick update on the affordable housing sales tax and what happens next in that process. So you have the floor.
First off, thank you so much to everybody that activated to help us get the message out. Everybody that wrote in, signed in, shared the message, and testified. It was a very powerful Tuesday meeting. And so I just wanted to start with an acknowledgement of thanks. The second thing is, we are really hopeful. It was not a no. It was truly, I still have concerns. And so going forward, what we will be doing is really working with across the aisle with several of the council members that raised concerns to see what their concerns are and how do we get to a yes. And the willingness to actually dialogue, the commitment by Councilmember Morrell to actually set a specific date and really think about what that means as far as when the money can go into effect. And so I think and believe we can get there. Councilmember Mello and myself and outgoing Chair Young and incoming Councilmember Denson and Councilmember Campbell are all really, I guess, positive. It took multiple meetings and many years to get the behavioral health tax passed. I think this will be much shorter. They know on both sides of the aisle and even at the executive's desk that this is a need across the county. So just the plan going forward is to see what the concerns are. What do we have to do to make them feel more comfortable about raising a tax? And then figure out what that means. And my colleagues on the council are willing to do that work and have those conversations. And the fact that we have a specific deadline of March means we know what's in front of us and we have the time to do that work. So that's my quick update. I don't want to take any more of your time. I'm actually at the Emerald Queen Casino for the Attorney General's Missing and Murder Indigenous Women and People Task Force as I'm a member. So I'm going to be signing off, but always everyone on this call, feel free to reach out to my office if there's something or you have further questions. So Rob, is there anything else that you thought I might want to share?
No, just if there's anything in particular that you think these 74 folks in the room can do to help move this forward. I know that I'm going to be sending a message out from the for those who signed on to the county council letter later today with some tips. But if there's anything you wanted to share in that regard.
I think right now it's pause and stay ready. Take some time. I know many people are actually going to be activated in a different way from this call. You guys are going out to help our unhoused neighbors. So focus on that because that saves lives. We will have those conversations in January, and in February, we will come up with an action plan to figure out what we need to do. We need to get the newly elected Councilmember Robin Denson onboarded and make sure she knows what's going on and have those conversations. So I think February we'll probably come back to this group and go, here's the plan, here's what we need to do, here are the asks, and talk through what that looks like.
Thank you, Councilmember Hitchen, and thank you for the update this morning.
You are welcome. Thank you, everybody, for your work on this and with our community members. And to Ed, I appreciate the reminder about the meeting. I'll get it on my, or the ceremony and event on the 21st. I'll get it on my calendar. Thank you all. Have a wonderful and safe holiday.
Thank you, you too. All right, so let's shift back to our agenda. Just a word about our agenda. Of course, you probably, if you received the email, realize that we're going to spend an hour this morning between 9:30 and 10:30 meeting with elected officials in a conversation with elected officials. So we have limited time leading up to our 9:30 time. So we have the next 10 minutes where we could share about what we're seeing on the streets this week, and then offer any need and share type of items. At 9:20, I'm going to ask my colleague from the Housing Alliance, Po Lepi, to give us a 10-minute run through of the 2023 public policy priorities. But before we get there, that's just a teaser for Po. Before we get there, we will talk about what's happening on the streets this week. So again, this is the section where we want to hear from folks about what they're seeing as the weather is growing cold, what the needs are, and how the 80 plus people in this room can help meet those needs. So we'll start with Jan.
Yes. Good morning, everybody. On November 28th, I went out to an encampment on 6th and Pearl in Tacoma, Washington, USA. There were 3 campers there. One was, I'll use his initials, TW. He was 56 years old, Black, history of diabetes, a veteran. On speaking with him, he was very afraid of what he was seeing in the trees behind us. He was pointing to the trees behind us, which led me to think that he had some mental health issues, because there were no people, I turned around, there were no people in the trees, but he really saw them. The other tent mate had asked us to look at him because he was doing poorly. His fingers were bloated, his color was poor, his cognition was shaky. I called 911. 911 came promptly, it was wonderful, but he refused care. I went back 3 days later when it was colder, so that was beginning of December. He agreed to go to shelter. I called several agencies, and Crystal Lee, thank you so much, went on our inclement weather listserv and put the call out for transport. All I needed was transport. Every agency is absolutely stretched to the max. Nobody has staff available. Nobody has resources. Nobody has the ability to respond to yet one more crisis. So the man he was willing to go to shelter that day. The conditions got worse. I went back yesterday to find him. His tent mate said he's dead. He was found on 6th and Pearl dead a few days ago. Okay, so the man is 56 years old, which makes him in the category that is higher risk for consequences. Chronic disease or diabetes. If you don't maintain your blood sugars, you are at risk for severe events. He's Black. We've got implicit bias in our healthcare system. He has mental health issues. Unless somebody is a known immediate threat to self or others, there is no care for folks with mental health. He's a veteran. Our veteran services are proud of having the best response to homelessness. That as a category, the VA has one of the better responses to homelessness. It didn't help this guy. It didn't help this guy. So what if I had called 911 and he had agreed to go to the doctor? He still would be dead. We already know from statistics that people who live chronically homeless already will have about a 20-year shorter life expectancy. He was 56 years old. He wasn't going to make it anyway, right? So I am really, really glad that today we have our legislative representatives here, because homelessness is a social determinant of health. And this man, TW, was already a dead man walking as far as I'm concerned. Even if he had been picked up while alive, he already was going to suffer poor consequences. The only thing we can do to concentrate on to do this is prevention. And the only way to prevent this kind of tragic, inexcusable way that we treat our neighbors is through prevention and affordable housing.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you for your advocacy and passion, and that shouldn't have happened. Okay, so we have a couple other folks with hands up. Giovanni.
Yes, hi. Thank you so much, Jan. That was really helpful. And I appreciate just hearing from you and hearing the passion in your voice about what is unacceptable in our community. My name is Giovanni Sachere, and I am the Chief of Human Services for a new program in the community that is extremely concerned with the health of our unhoused neighbors. And as you spoke about prevention, we are also a program that wants to prevent people from having to go onto the streets because of different situations that they are facing on a regular basis that sometimes cause them to not be able to make their ends meet. So rental assistance, utility assistance, and we all know that the weather is getting colder, much, much, much too cold for people to be outside. We want to try our hardest to get people inside and indoors. Misty's Adult and Family Services provides field-based case management. We provide case management in supportive housing and supportive employment. We also provide move-in assistance, rental assistance, utility assistance, and any type of financial assistance that is necessary to keep people housed and to also move people towards housing. We are funded by the state of Washington to increase the health of all low-income Washingtonians in our communities through these supportive services. Thank you so much for your time, and please visit Misty Cares, that's MYSTICARES.org. And you can also submit referrals via our telephone at 1-800-524-4827. And if anybody would like to have us to present to any of their community members or community partners, we would love the opportunity. Please utilize us. We would like to be there to support you through the situations that we are seeing on the street. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Giovanni. And if you want to drop your that contact information in the chat, that would be a great resource for folks. Let's shift over to Jan. I see you have your hand up as well.
Hi, thank you. So this is Jan with LASA, and I've worked with people experiencing homelessness for many years, yet I do not really have experience in how to work with somebody that Jan just mentioned. One of my I live in an affluent neighborhood. My neighbors know what I do for a living, and so they've been coming to me lately because all of a sudden they see that homelessness is real. Specifically, they're concerned about a woman that is living on the corner of Pine and 37th. And so I wanted to know if there's a way to find out if somebody has reached out to her. I found it interesting that my neighbors were willing to, quote, adopt her. I'm talking to them about the possibility of maybe adopting a tiny home, and they wanted it to be dedicated to her. And I'm trying to educate them that that's not the way it works, but want to be able to encourage their generosity and concern. And yet, despite the fact that I've worked in this field for a number of years, I lack knowledge of working directly with someone on the street. So I would love to have anybody private message me with some suggestions. Thank you.
So I'll share with the full group what I do in situations like that has been successful. And that is, if it's within the city of Tacoma, I usually try to reach out to James Pogue personally from Comprehensive Life Services and see if his outreach team can make contact with the individual. And I'll drop James's email in the chat. We have time for one more comment before we go over to Poe. Patricia, you want to close this out?
I just wanted to speak on why the way, like with the tiny homes, it should work that way. If a community is coming together to rise somebody up and get a tiny home and support that for an individual, I think it should work like that. And we've created systems in which it doesn't. And I'll leave it at that because it's very important that we're here with the others. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. And let's see. So let's shift over to Poe. And Poe, let me give you the ability to share your screen. There you are.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah, you're welcome. And you're ready to go.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for having me. It's good to be in space with you all, and I appreciate all the work you're doing out there. My name's sorry, I'm a little under the weather, but let's get it. My name is Poe Leopai. I'm the advocacy organizer at the Washington Low-Income Housing Alliance. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm joining you all from the stolen lands of the Puyallup tribe here in Tacoma. I am the advocacy organizer, like I said, at the Housing Alliance. I also come with lived experience of low-income housing, and I experienced homelessness months after my release from prison in 2005. I'm here to share our Housing Alliance 2023 legislative priority agenda and invite you to help us advocate for these agenda items this upcoming legislative session. For impacted communities, policy advocacy is a way to turn their pain into purpose and their purpose into promise. It's an opportunity to educate lawmakers and the public on the importance of tenant protections, homelessness prevention, and affordable permanent supportive housing. Our mission at the Housing Alliance is as follows. We change public policy so that people in Washington of all races, ethnicities, abilities, genders, and identities can live in safe, healthy homes they can afford. We do this through educating decision makers, organizing and amplifying the voices and priorities of people and communities most impacted by housing instability and homelessness. Now I would like to share my screen. Here we go. Bear with me, not the most tech savvy, but we're gonna make it happen here. Along with sharing my screen, sorry, I lost the thing here. I would like to, in the chat there, this is the link to our 2023 Housing Alliance Legislative Priority Agenda for your referencing. If you'd like to follow along, that'd be awesome.
No, I don't want Zoom to optimize
Oh.
originals.
Let me make this viewable for everybody. There we go. Cool. Can y'all see that?
Yep, looks good.
All right, cool. I'm just gonna begin. Here we go. Each year, the Housing Alliance creates both a lead or priority agenda and also a support agenda for the upcoming legislative session. The Housing Alliance seeks to center policy priorities that will do the following: have a statewide impact, reduce race-based and other inequities, increase equity, fairness, and opportunity, and have both immediate and long-term impacts on preventing and ending homelessness and increasing affordable housing. Oh, sorry, here we go. I'll let you follow along there, and I wrote a little piece for this part right here. If you can find that bullet on the link I sent you, where it says the state should make a significant investment, $400 million in affordable housing, construction, and preservation to build more permanently and deeply affordable homes. All of you have probably heard lawmakers complain, like, when is this going to end? We put millions of dollars into housing and homelessness, or it's only getting worse, or you all haven't done enough. We are continuing to see people fall into homelessness because we are not preventing homelessness. Now we're going to get to the solutions. On your screen is a big investment in affordable homes. And remember, this coupled with rent increases was by far between all stakeholders the most urgent priority and the thing that people said would make the most significant impact on their lives. It is a big, bold request, but as I'm sure you all know, there's capacity in the capital budget. We've already been meeting with lawmakers, key lawmakers, and it's only a matter of will and a matter of where lawmakers decide to prioritize these funds. All of you have probably heard lawmakers saying all of that nonsense, and so have I. We also want to create a new permanent fund source for the Housing Trust Fund. State Representative Frank Chop, as most of you know, is the previous speaker and a big champion for affordable housing and homelessness. He has crafted a bill to create a permanent fund source from REITs, the real estate excise tax. Some of you have been around for a couple of years now. We did this a couple of years back. The state legislature loved the tiered REIT idea that our bill created, but took out the appropriation for the Housing Trust Fund. So this is another try and a little different from the way it was crafted because we already have the REIT. What this would do is create a new higher real estate excise tax on properties that are valued at $5 million or more. And then that revenue would be dedicated to the Housing Trust Fund, both Apple Health and Homes, permanent supportive housing, and the competitive pool of the Housing Trust Fund. Another bill that he's working on also creates a local option for an additional real estate excise tax. For most communities, it would be a third iteration of the state authorized local tax. It would require local action though. We know that some communities are more poised to pass a local option than others, but having both the state option and the local option would be ideal. We're very happy that Frank Chop is taking lead on this. Next slide there. Funding for homelessness prevention and hand rental assistance is the next one I'd like to share with you. And I'm not reading all of the priority agenda items on there, but just specific ones for the sake of time and relevancy. The next slide is another big priority of the Housing Alliance is going to be generally to invest in homelessness prevention and homelessness solutions. And this includes the HAN, Housing and Essential Needs Program, cash assistance to the Age, Blind, and Disabled program. Each of these bullets are a separate item because each of these in and of itself is a huge lift and a very important lift. Document and recording fees are the main source of funding for homelessness prevention programs in our state. Because the economy has slowed down and because those are specifically fees on real estate related transactions, and as we all know, real estate transactions are slowing down. People are not refinancing their homes and are selling at the same rate. So we're facing an up to 50% decline in funding anticipated for homelessness prevention. If the state legislature does not address this in their budget, we will see a reduction in services. This is absolutely unacceptable. At a time when the only thing we should be doing is increasing services, we would be seeing a reduction in services statewide. So our ask is for the state legislature to use the general fund, the big pot of money in the state's operating budget. We want them to make up the gap out of the operating budget. This will be a small feat, but it is doable. What we need to do is raise awareness, sound the alarm, and educate lawmakers about the importance of this. Some questions we are getting right now are, but are these homelessness services working? And others are saying, can't you just do more with less? Those types of things will be asked, and that's where advocates are going to need to weigh in and educate each of our lawmakers in the state to ensure they prioritize this. Now, I think a lot of you are familiar with the Housing Essential Needs rental assistance programs for people with disabilities, and they qualify for it until they get Social Security disability payments from the federal government. When this program was created in 2011, it was conceived of as a gap filler and a security safety net to help people as they were applying for federal disability benefits. However, as we all know, federal Social Security benefits do not come anywhere near what it takes to pay the rent in Washington state. Right now, in order for rent to be affordable, if your source of income is Social Security or Social Security disability, your rent needs to be under $300, and that's fairly impossible to find unless you are able to secure a slot in a subsidized apartment building or home. The benefits cliff happens when people lose their housing essential needs rental assistance but still can't afford the rent. This program pulls out the support from under people when the federal government has agreed that the person has a long-term permanent disability and won't be able to work. So we want to fix this because we are seeing people fall back into homelessness after they get the federal Social Security benefits. We were able to, over 2 budgets, have what we call an SSI pilot, meaning it was temporary and it was in the 5 highest cost counties where the biggest gaps between rent and Social Security benefits and the HAN benefits were. It is a pretty hefty lift, but a very important lift, y'all. And finally, I'd like to bring your attention this slide here. The state should support and stabilize the nonprofit housing and homelessness workforce. They should make a 2022 one-time Department of Commerce grantee administrative increase permanent. This would impact nonprofit organizations providing affordable housing and homelessness services that are funded through the state budget. They would be required to raise wages and take other actions to stabilize their workforce and fill vacant positions. Now, thank you all for the time. I'd like to open this up, and I'm going to stop my share here. How do I stop it? I forgot. Oh.
I can always do it for you too, Poe. But the what I wanted to say here, let me stop the share, is that we actually have reached 9:30. So if folks have questions for Poe and want to use the chat for that, that'd be fantastic. Thank you, Poe, for joining this morning. Sorry you're under the weather, but thank you for going through the priorities. And I'll drop the link to the website where the priorities live as well. And hopefully, if you can hang out for a few moments, you might see some questions in the chat.
Thank you.
So, Cynthia, would you like to help get us squared away while I start setting up breakout rooms?
Sure, I would be happy to do that. So as we talked earlier before elected officials began arriving, we are having a session today to both congratulate them on their election or re-election and also have a conversation about what they would like to know from us and what we would hope that they would do for us in their respective roles. First, I want to say thank you to Rosemary Powers for all the work she did to organize this part of today's agenda. She did a tremendous amount to set this up. And I want to say thank you to those of you who are elected officials participating today. We really know how busy you are, and we appreciate you taking the time to join us. What we're hoping for today is to share information. What are you as elected officials wondering about related to housing and homelessness that those of us in the room who are service providers and advocates can share? And what do you, those same providers and advocates, think elected officials should know about what is going on and how they could help? We're going to start by hearing very brief self-introductions from each of the recently elected or re-elected officials who are here. And each of them will say just one or two sentences about who they are, what they represent, what their role is, and then a couple of questions that they have that they would like to have us talk about. And then we will go into the small group discussions in breakout rooms for 20 minutes in each case. And then we'll come back and hear from them what they're taking away from this conversation. When we get into the breakout rooms, each one will have an assigned facilitator. And so each of the people in the coalition, please introduce yourself by saying what organization you're with, what your role is, what you see as the unmet needs, and what government can do. When you're in those groups, don't repeat information that has already been shared. Just explain that you have the same perspective as X or whoever you want to name. So now let's hear from each of our elected guests. Right now, Senator Chris Gildon is in the room, and he has been recently re-elected to that role. And congratulations, Senator Gildon. Let's start with you. And can we spotlight Rob? Are you able to do that?
I'll have a hard time doing that while I'm also
Can
setting
you
up.
make me a co-host and I can do it?
Yeah, certainly.
Okay.
Okay, are we ready?
I'm not a co-host yet. So Senator Gildon, go ahead and get started and I will spotlight you as soon as I can make that possible.
Yeah,
you
sure.
should
No,
be able
thank
to
you
do
all so much. And thanks for the invitation to come join you here today and listen to you. I am Chris Gildon, your senator for the 25th Legislative District, which pretty much covers Puyallup, South Hill, and some of the surrounding areas. First elected to the House in 2018 and then over to the Senate in 2020. So I have about 2 more years left on my term. And I previously served on the Senate Human Services Reentry and Reintegration Committee as the ranking member. I've since moved off of that committee for the next year And so I won't be in that world quite as much, but still very interested in everything that's happening in this area, because we've got so much need out there, and quite frankly, so many competing resources for that need. So I really look forward to the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Let's go next to Senator Yasmin Trudeau in the 27th district, who was recently reelected. So, Senator Trudeau.
Hi, thanks everyone for having me. I have to preface this with, I have a baby who is sick and is struggling to sleep. So if you see me turn my camera off and come back with a wiggly nugget, you know what's going on. But happy to be here with you this morning from Tacoma. The 27th Legislative District represents large parts of Tacoma, Dash Point, and now with redistricting, we have the lovely city of Fife also included in that. I currently, last session, I served on Housing, Human Services with Senator Gildon. Nice to see you this morning, Senator Gildon, and Law and Justice as Vice Chair. This session, I am continuing to serve on the Housing Committee. I will be working on capital budget, environment, and law and justice, but still paying very close attention to what's happening in the human services space, and have really appreciated working with Senator Gildon and others on those issues. So nice to be with you this morning, and ready to learn what you guys are doing and thinking, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's go to Speaker Lori Jenkins from the 27th District in the House of Representatives.
Thanks, Cynthia. I guess we're all having little problems this morning. Just as you started speaking, my other computer went kind of nutto, and now I can't shut it off, but it's this loud buzzing noise. So my apologies if you hear it in the background. Luckily, I have a second personal computer that works. I'm happy to be here with you all today. Senator Trudeau just described our district. I've been serving in the legislature for 12 years, and this will be my second full term as Speaker of the House. I no longer serve on committees anymore other than chairing the Rules Committee, but I'm responsible for kind of the floor action in the House and what bills we move to the floor. So I'm excited to hear the conversation and the priorities that you all have. It's also been really good for me as someone who also works in public health and works a lot with Jan. I work at the health department also, so I've been coming to your meetings pretty regularly during the interim on Friday mornings, and it's been very helpful both in my public health role and in my role as speaker. So thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. I thought I had seen Representative Charlotte Mena in the group, but now I can't find her.
I'm here.
Okay,
here. I look different because my hair is wilier than usual, but I am here.
Please go ahead. Thank you.
Well, good morning. I'm Representative-elect Charlotte Mena in the 29th District, which includes South and East Tacoma, Parkland, and Spanaway, and a little bit of Lakewood too. So I'm really excited to be here. You know, housing is a priority, I think, for everybody serving in the legislature, and certainly something that's top of mind for folks in the 29th. I'll be serving on the Environment, Transportation, and State Government and Tribal Affairs Committee, but that doesn't mean I won't be involved in a lot of these, you know, really big pushes to meet the needs of the folks in the 29th and, you know, meet the needs that we have in terms of housing head on. So I'm really excited to be here today and hear from you all that have lived experience and lived work experience. And, you know, I have a lot of questions about what you all think is the most effective thing we can do as legislators, and we'll be happy to take yours as well. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. I don't see Senator Steve Conway here or Spencer Hutchins, representative from the 26th District. So we'll move to Robin Denson, newly elected Pierce County Council member from District 7.
Good morning, everybody. It's so great to see you all. Thank you so much for all of your work. Just wanted to say that housing and homelessness these are key issues in Pierce County, as they are all over the state. And I wanted to let you all know that even though I don't have a whole lot of super recent experience with housing, my past professional history was very heavily related to housing. I worked for a community action agency where we had a homeless shelter. We handled all the Section 8 program for the state of Connecticut. And then I worked for Habitat for Humanity. And then I worked for 5 sessions for our state House of Representatives as the housing analyst. And it was mentioned before, the document recording fee for homelessness that assists all the counties. That was part of, that was legislation that I helped draft back in, I think, 2005, 2006. And also the multifamily tax exemption program, which has evolved a bit since. That was something else that I worked on. So these are issues that I'm really passionate about. And what I'm looking forward to hearing from you all is what we can do at all levels of government to really move the needle and make a difference. What I think we're all hearing from our constituents is they want to address homelessness with compassion, but there's a lot of frustration out there, and you all are the experts. So I want to know what best practices you have, what resources you need, so that we can help you do the work that you do and know how to do so well. So thank you all.
Thank you. And last but not least, we have re-elected Pierce County Council member Marty Campbell from District 5.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me here. Boy, am I looking forward to working with Robin coming up. Pierce County Council District number 5, representing kind of the central area of Pierce County, East Side Tacoma, Midland, Parkland, Spanaway, Summit, Waller, Northeast Tacoma, Dash Point, and Fife, and others. I'll be serving on human services. I'm currently on the Board of Health, Pierce Transit, lots of areas where we intersect. And I understand we already got updates earlier about our work this week on homelessness. So the work continues, but we're committed to really moving the ball forward on this and getting better plans into place. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. So
Hey,
now,
hey, Cynthia, this is Cynthia. Can you hear me? This is Rep Levitt. I've been here the whole time, just listening in from the 28th.
I never saw you on there, so thank you. Representative Levitt from the 28th district, recently reelected.
Thank you. And I do represent the 28th legislative district, serving since 2019, have served on the Housing Committee, the House Housing Committee, and all its iterations since the time that I was elected, and will continue to serve on our housing, all things housing committee in the House this upcoming term, and serving as the vice chair, and look forward to learning from all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so glad you spoke up. So next we're going to go back to Rob, and he will put us into small groups for the breakout discussions, and we'll take it away. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Cynthia, and for everyone who's joined us this morning. So what I've done is I have set up, there will actually be 7 rooms where folks can go. I'm allowing folks to kind of select their own room at this time. However, they're just labeled by the room number, not by the legislator who's in the session. The hope is that we'll end up with a roughly equal number of people in the 6 rooms that we have assigned. And then if you stay in this main room, you'll be here with Cynthia and I believe Representative Levitt. So I am going to open the rooms, and I apologize ahead of time if I do end up shuffling you to another room. I just want to make sure that we have a relatively equal number of people in the room, so everyone has an opportunity to talk to one of our elected officials today. All right, so are folks seeing the invite to join a room? And if you're an elected official, you are already assigned to a room, as well as a facilitator for each room. Welcome back, everyone.
That was a good experience.
That's good to hear, Todd. So Cynthia, do you want to lead us through the next part of this meeting?
Sure. So let's go ahead and do the elected officials in the same order that we did introductions. So I'd like to start with Senator Gildon. Senator, what are you taking away from this conversation?
Yeah, no, thank you. That was a great experience. It was like a rapid round going around. So in our group, I just informed everyone of some of the things in the pipeline related to housing that I know are coming up. And I asked, are we headed in the right direction? And overall, the feedback was very positive. We spoke about, put my reading glasses on so I can read my notes. It's that time of my life. We spoke a little bit about ending generational poverty and providing people a chance to get into housing so it doesn't continue from generation to generation. We spoke about, interesting thing is the ability to provide services to people in the case of inclement weather events and some solutions for that. We spoke a little bit about some safe parking. We spoke about the intersection of mental health and the services that are needed as it relates to homelessness. And then we spoke a little bit about some of the sustainability issues that our nonprofit partners are seeing these days. And so really good conversation, and I'm very appreciative to everyone who took part. Thanks.
So do you have a particular action that you want to take when you get back into session?
Well, I'm going to be on the housing committee again this upcoming year, and I think one of the biggest things that we're going to be doing is probably going to be in the area of zoning and potentially increasing density in certain areas of our state to allow for more housing to meet the needs.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I want to go to Representative Murray Levitt. She was in your group, I believe, at the very end, and I just want to catch her before we lose her again. So Representative Levitt, are you still with us?
I am, and I think Senator Gildon did a nice job of talking about it. And I think top priority, and heard in the group near the tail end as well, is increasing density in our transit centers and transit areas, and working on increasing our housing supply and streamlining to ensure that we're removing every barrier that we can to get housing built and built quickly.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So let's go to Senator Trudeau. Senator Trudeau, what is your takeaway from this conversation?
Yeah, so we talked a lot about, mapping out who's at the table, mapping, just because it's a lot of folks doing a lot of different types of work. So the opportunity to collaborate and learn from one another, the importance of lived experience. We talked about some barriers that folks have regarding to language access, cultural access to housing. And I talked a little bit about some of the issues that Senator Gildon, my assistant is a little distracting at the moment. In terms of generational wealth building. So I would like to plug that one of the issues that I hope we will continue to discuss, in addition to the zoning and density conversation, is the Washington Future Fund, which is the opportunity to really disrupt some of that generational issues and begin with some wealth building. So I wanted to put in a plug there, and I hope to work with Senator Gildon and others on both of those issues moving forward. But yeah, a lot of what we heard is really getting to know each other and figuring out left hand, right hand, and how do we make sure that folks are accessing the types of support and services they need in order to access housing, regardless of how much of it is available. I hope I did my team justice. So anybody jump in if I got that wrong.
Thank you. So let's go to Speaker Jenkins, Lori Jenkins.
Thank you. My only report about my assistant is that I've been able to turn off the computer that was buzzing. So anyway, that's my victory of the morning. We had a great conversation that really started us off, I think, by grounding us in the idea that we need to value people's dignity in the decisions that we're making in the legislature. But we talked about a really broad range of things, everything from kind of how we kind of strengthen people's voices in our democracy by use of ranked choice voting and single payer healthcare and things like that. Then down to kind of more specific housing issues related to how do we incentivize people to build more ADUs? How do we disincentivize folks from buying up multiple single family homes for rentals and instead have those be in the market for purchase? And then linked with that is how we deal with generational wealth and get more communities engaged and more people able to buy homes. I would just say that Representative Chop and I have been talking about a proposal that he has to really focus on that issue and bring some funding to that this session. So we'll see how that goes. a lot of support in the group for some form of rent control and making sure that we're not destroying already existing low-income housing and replacing that with much higher income housing. So paying attention to that. Giovanni talked a little bit about the Foundational Community Support Program, and just that it's a great program that people don't know well, and it's founded through the Medicaid Transformation Grant. And so maybe doing some more work to help people know and understand that program so that it's better used. And then we ended by talking a lot about mass incarceration, and I can't remember who it was, Teresa maybe, who really, I'm not sure that this will be a state legislative issue, might be, but setting a specific time when jails are allowed to release people so that people aren't released in the middle of the night. And that there's a time when service providers could know that they could be present to help people navigate, which seemed like an awesome idea that I hadn't heard of before. So those were a number of things that I heard about, some great conversation, great ideas.
Thank you so much. Now we have Representative Charlotte Mena.
Well, thank you for letting me be a part of this robust discussion. Some of the things that I heard that were different were huge investments in building more units. I think we all understand that we just simply don't have enough housing. But one of the most important things I heard was sustainable funding, not one-time big funding, but sustainable funding that is going to help keep folks in permanent supportive housing and accounts for, folks that may need longer term stay, low barrier housing, and like I said, long-term supports. Another thing I heard from the group was, those essential wraparound services and having a robust mental and behavioral health system, as well as ensuring that, when folks are working, they are making a living wage. So we had a really great discussion. I have my marching orders. You have been heard. I want to encourage folks on the call to govern with us. You can be a part of this process, and accountability doesn't have to come at the end of session when maybe we've done something that doesn't really quite hit the mark. So I encourage folks to stay informed, be a part of the process, be a part of the policy making with us, testify in committees, reach out to our offices, ask us for meetings. We've got a big job in front of us, and I think we'll do a much better job if we do it together.
Thank you. I'm hoping that all of you who are legislators will hang in there until we hear from our two county council members, and then we'll have about 10 minutes of Q&A if that's okay with you. So the next person would be Councilmember Marty Campbell.
Thank you, and thank you for doing this. What great conversation. We talked a little bit about one of the items that came up is when inclement weather, when we're deciding that we need to open up more services, can be inconsistent across different governments. We need to get a standard of when it is, and it needs to be not simply when weather becomes lethal, but far before that, to make sure that because actually the definition of when weather can impact you can really depend on your health status. So we need to have different levels there, need to work on more rapid rehousing, adult family homes. We're seeing more seniors out there. So what are we doing to help support seniors so that they're getting support? We need to make sure that we are looking at not concentrating affordable housing. 100+ units of affordable housing in one building, creates a concentration that's not necessarily healthy or the best. How can we do smaller ones, 25 units or so, or focusing more on mixed income within the same building to help build community that way? And we heard a discussion about the immorality of suites and that they should be illegal. Or have a very high bar, and make sure that we need to do more with mental health crisis response, because we're not, it's really not there yet. We still don't have the mental health crisis response that we need with homelessness. And I think that was a lot. The other was car repair, something to help people who are experiencing homelessness with their car repairs. Both funding to help them get critical parts replaced on their car or new tires so they have a safe vehicle so they can get to and from work or to reside in or whatever. But how can we create a system that helps with car repair? Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Councilmember Robin Denson.
Yes, thank you. Well, all of the things that you all discussed were discussed in our excellent group as well. Just highlight a few things. Marty mentioned mental health. Everybody in our group mentioned the need for more mental health resources and services. So that was a big one. The point was made that it's really important that we don't make assumptions, that we go talk to the people experiencing homelessness in all its different forms to understand what actually will work for them, what they need, instead of just assuming what we think would be best for them. So that's really important. Also, the importance of communicating to the public realistic expectations, kind of explaining how difficult this work is and how nuanced and how these things take time and how much is going into it. But just letting them know that just because they passed the affordable housing tax, for example, which hopefully we will get done next year, or there's an increase in recording fees, it doesn't mean that in 2 months homelessness is going to be gone. This is going to take some time, and that's a challenging conversation. I appreciated some of the case managers and navigators mention the importance of paying our nonprofit service providers a living wage so that they can support their family, especially since a lot of these folks might have come from homelessness and challenging situations themselves. That's really important for sustainability. I'll mention the affordable housing tax that we'd like to get passed at the county. So any help that can come along with that, and the conversation around gentrification, which I think Marty mentioned a little bit too, making sure that we have affordable housing for people to access, which we've had a reduction of over the last couple of years with the big boom, the housing boom. And then Todd from Ording mentioned something that I just wanted to end with, and that is having the political courage, because when we're faced with constituents that are upset, and we understand their frustration, we need to have the political courage to do the right thing for our communities for the long term. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And now I'm going to open this up for questions. And if you would use the raise hand function, we can call on you. And for those elected officials who are still in the room, there's a lot of compliments and thank yous in the chat that you might want to check out. So who has a question and for whom? Raise your hand using the raised hand function, please. Okay, everybody was satisfied. Awesome. So thank you so much to all of our legislators and our 2 county council members. We look forward to working with you during session and in the year ahead for council members. Thank you again for being here and taking your time today. We appreciate it. Back to you, Rob.
Thank you, and appreciate everyone, our elected leaders and everyone who participates in the coalition meetings for that session. I think this is a great format for us to be able to all learn from each other, and it's especially helpful. This is our last regular Friday meeting of the coalition for this year, so this is a great way to end the year and to set ourselves up for a more successful 2023. So thank you, everyone. Before we get into the government updates, I do want to let folks know that although we will not hold a regular 2-hour meeting in these last 2 Fridays of the year that are coming up, we do intend to hold short, very function-focused sessions on both of those Friday mornings starting at 9 o'clock. But we're only going to focus on items like this week on the streets, the need and share, and any kind of cold weather response, anything that's functional to helping those who are currently outdoors, because we want to honor everybody's holiday time. So let's move to our regular weekly government updates, and I would turn the floor over to Caleb from the city of Tacoma. Any updates this week?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. I have one update. If you listen to study session on Tuesday, we gave an update about a safe parking site that we are working on starting to operate in January with Catholic and Community Services at the Holy Rosary site. Just as a quick introduction to it, it'll be serving about 40 individuals and possibly around 20 vehicles. And that site is hoping to be operational starting in January, and we will have a community meeting that second week. And as soon as I have the details finalized in terms of location and date, I will send that out to the listserv.
Thank you, Caleb. And anybody with any quick questions for Caleb, please just drop those in the chat, and we'll see if we can get those addressed. And let's shift over to Jeff Rogers from Pierce County Human Services.
Good morning. Excuse me. The only update I would like to remind everyone is that the homeless point in time count is coming January 26th. We're still in need of volunteers.
Got it, Jeff. Anything I see you dropped the link in the chat. Anything else you wanted to share from the county?
Did my mic go muted or something?
It did, yeah.
I don't know why. Sorry. I was just saying that we need volunteers, and I will put that link into the chat for those who want to volunteer for the pit count on January 26th. Weird. Okay, that's it.
You know, technology is rearing its head here at the end of the year, so it says it's time for a break for folks. Earlier, I know Valerie was in the meeting. Valerie, anything, if you're still here, anything you want to update about rental assistance? And maybe Valerie stepped away. So folks from the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department, any updates this week? I see Jenny coming off mute.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I just have two kind of quick things to share with the group. The federal COVID test kit program is up and running again, and they'll start shipments on home antigen COVID tests on the 19th of December. So I'll share the link for that. Good time to stock up again and check expiration dates on all the kits you have at home. I know we have a stockpile here at our home, accidental stockpile, but things do expire. So yeah, get some more. Dr. Jarvie said he ordered. Jan's saying there's more, there's some at the library. Oh, sorry, she's not talking about test kits. She's saying library needs socks. But anyhow, I will share the link for the test kit program, ordering program. Another big announcement for those that get updates from TPCHD, you may have seen this, but masking indoors is, we don't have a mandate. I've been saying that for months. But all the state health directors got together and made a joint statement recommending masking indoors in light of the strain on our hospital systems due to flu, RSV, COVID, all of that coming together in this season. And so I know folks are really concerned about cold weather, understandably, but wanted to share the news release about masking. Unfortunately, since we're no longer in a COVID emergency response, DEM is not providing masks necessarily. We don't have a whole lot, but I do have some masks that I have to share with folks. So if folks, I'm going to prioritize those for congregate shelters who I've already reached out to. But if folks need masks and can't get them through their normal channels and can reach out to me, I will do my best to try and get you some. Those are the announcements from me, and I'll share both the news release about masking indoors and the COVID testing program, testing kit ordering in the chat. And I'll hand it over to Isaiah or someone from the environmental health team.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks, Jenny. So yeah, so I can go ahead and give updates for environmental health. As far as I know, currently we are not activated. I do know that the interim thresholds for activation have passed, but I don't believe we are activating. I'm not high enough on the chain to exactly know why, but I'm hoping to figure it out more as we go along. But other than that, we've done a lot of work this week to try and get some cold weather supplies out to providers. I dropped off some cold weather injury cards over to West Pierce Fire Department, as well as over to Fob Hope, where we also dropped off some hand warmers, and we were able to give them some donations. So we are collecting donations for our houseless neighbors over at the D Street location over at the Pierce County Health Department. That's still ongoing. I'm doing some advertising over here to get some more people to engage with that. I know there was an ask for some cold weather gear like gloves and hats for kiddos especially. So I'm working to get that sorted out, especially in regards to our Family Resource Center. And I also know that I think Cindy, she's not here today, but Cindy Haverkamp, our climate climate justice coordinator, she was able to drop off some injury kits or cold weather medical kits over to, I believe it was New Hope, I believe today. So yeah, so that's the updates as far as I know, and we're still monitoring things as we go along to see whether or not we're going to activate.
Thank you, Isaiah, and Jenny as well. Great information as always. Do we have anybody from Pierce County Department of Emergency Management on the call for an update? I know that they were participating just for the awareness of everyone who's not plugged into the cold weather outreach meetings that have been taking place. The folks at the Department of Emergency Management have been active this week, and both Jan and Jay from our coalition have been active and at the Emergency Operations Center. So there is planning underway to make sure that we can do what we can to keep folks alive during the current cold weather, as well as the potential for snow that starts next week on Monday through Wednesday-ish, at least in the current forecast. So DEM may not be here right now, but they've been very active this week. So let's shift over. I wanted to carve out a little bit of time this morning still for our review of last week's breakout conversation. So
Hey,
Timothy, can I put that on? Oh, go ahead, Representative Levin.
Rob, do you mind if just real quick, related to what you were just talking about, extreme weather?
Sure.
We have a bill, House Bill 1012, the Extreme Weather Protection Act, that provides assistance to local jurisdictions during times of extreme heat, cooling, as well as poor air quality. So as it got all the way through the Senate rules and just languished on the last day in the Senate floor. So we'll be bringing that back this year, and we hope that you'll support that. And it will serve our seniors and our most vulnerable and communities that are disproportionately impacted by environmental concerns all across our county and of course across the state. So hope you support that, and that's House Bill 1012. But it'll address exactly what you're talking about, making sure our local jurisdictions never give the excuse they didn't have enough resources to open early or stay open late.
Thank you, Representative Levitt. So let's shift over to Timothy. I saw you drop the document in the chat. Let me share it here on screen. And if you want to walk through what we talked about last week.
Sure. Great, just a second. This always happens to me. This always happens to me. I'm like looking at my document on screen, and then you share your document and I go full screen and I have to like get back to my document. So to sum up last week's discussion, the question was, what are we prepared to advocate for in 2023? And what else do we need to feel prepared? We have the great quote from Audre Lorde up at the top that Rosemary offered last week. These always seem to somehow be super relevant to whatever we're talking about. Thanks to Rosemary for that. Issues for advocacy. That was kind of a mixture of specific stuff, like more funds into the Housing Trust Fund and really big picture stuff, like advocating for equitable systems and things of that nature. So you can just, rather than me reading off everything on that list, you can just cast an eye over that and see what some of the things people brought up, particular needs that were specified in terms of what can be helpful to people advocating. Somebody brought up this point, it's kind of the diffusion of responsibility thing. Never assume that somebody else is doing the advocacy that we need to be doing. Somebody brought up the idea that power mapping is essential work for advocacy. That's something I'm not aware that's being done if we've been doing that. There was some discussion about limitations that people have on their ability to do advocacy within their organizations. I know that that's a dilemma that some of us are familiar with. There were a few requests in regard to the tax that is being considered, that people wanted talking points around that can be used across constituencies. Again, people wanted to know what bills are related to homelessness are in front of the legislature. Poe kind of spoke to that this morning a bit about the broad priorities. And it was brought up that, again, the regressive tax thing came up. And in terms of talking points, people wanted arguments that would be relevant to low-income people that have the concerns about the funding source. And then there was this broad point about accountability. I'm not going to go over all of the suggested tactics that people talked about because I want to keep this brief. And then there is also some general comments that people made about this that I encourage you all to just, download this document and take a look at that and see what people had to say. And then at the end of it, I just put together a bunch of kind of little announcements and things that were brought up during the call. And I think that I'm going to make that an ongoing part of this roundup. So there we go.
Thank you so much, Timothy. This really does add a lot of value to those conversations and brings us all back. So thank you. And it's possible, Timothy, do you want to send that document to the coalition mailing list or should I? I don't know if it's been posted on the website yet, and I do apologize. The website updates will be a bit limited over the next couple of weeks because many of those are done by Garrett, and Garrett is out of the country. So
there we go. Why don't you go ahead and post it? Because I'm not really quite sure how to do that.
Sure. Yeah, I'll do that after this morning's meeting. Yeah, thank you. So Cynthia, you should receive that in on the mailing list here in a little bit. So we're actually ahead of our agenda, believe it or not. So let's shift over to updates from Jan and the Safe Sites for All committee.
Yes, I have a request from Tacoma Public Libraries, specifically the Swayze and the Moore branches. Moore branch is 215 South 56th. Swayze is the Narrows end of 6th Avenue, really close to Pow's Donut. See if you got $1.25 to get a great donut. They are asking for hand warmers, gloves, hats, socks, and non-perishable food. So oftentimes folks who are mobile and unsheltered and are able to get away from their encampment, they will seek assistance at a library. They'll use the library as a warming center. The libraries, however, are closed during inclement weather, and budget cuts has put a big constraint on when libraries are open, but all libraries have folks coming in for assistance. So remember your library, and I have a request into the Pierce County Library to see if they are also in need of those kinds of items. Well, we are meeting daily in the morning with inclement weather, with human services and or DEM. So there are daily meetings, except on the weekend, of course. So if you have any desire to be involved with the weather and the unsheltered, jump in on those meetings. And if Paula Anderson is still here, is Paula in the room?
Let me see.
I'm here.
Take it away, Paula.
And what are we talking about? The safe parking? Sorry, I was on a phone call.
Yes, safe park. What's the current status of safe parking?
So right now we're continuing to have people in there. We're supplying some of our warm or cold weather items to them, especially the ones that aren't allowed to go into a building. And we're continuing to move people in and out. We had a family house last week, and I just got word that we got a family house this week too. So we're super excited about that. Yeah, it's just a real quick share. The one family that we got housed last week took 3 different agencies, and an incredible story of finding or seeing the need, and then all of us coming together to help it. So it was good. It was good.
Thank you, Paula. And anything else, Jan, you wanted to share?
I'll put the wish list for libraries in the chat.
And you probably saw Teresa's comment about having 250 pairs of socks she could part with, but just needing to know where they can go.
Are you talking in terms of where they can go as far as the distribution site for outreach workers or folks on the street?
So I was thinking specifically about the libraries.
Yeah.
If they're looking for socks.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so if I don't know who to call within the library system to say, do you want these socks?
Oh, I know for a fact that those two, Swayze and Moore, want the socks, and then they will distribute them throughout the entire Tacoma Public Library system.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Seems
Okay.
like a good thing.
Yeah. Okay. I will put that in the chat.
All right. Thank you, Jan, and thank you, everyone. I did want to add just a little bit of context. There's and bring it to the larger group. There's still 58 of us here in the room. The coalition has our email address. That's info@pchomeless.org. I just wanted to share that I received those emails and have been trying to help refer folks to shelter resources and coordinated entry during this time. I have seen an increase in the number of people seeking help. I know that Jessica from Greater Lakes has shared that there are more people seeking help. The folks from Luis and the folks from the Tacoma Rescue Mission have also made the comment that more people are seeking help. And it's not, yes, it's being driven a little bit by the weather, but it also seems to be driven by an increase in the number of people who need help. So I just want to say I appreciate the work that everyone's doing to try to find solutions for people. Like Paula shared, it taking the effort of 3 different agencies and multiple individuals to find solutions for an individual household. It's hard work, but this is probably the most rewarding work too. So thank you for sharing those success stories, Paula. So we have time now for some good trouble announcements. Anybody with things that they would like to share with the larger group, just use the raise hand function or do it with your hand. And I think I saw Todd's hand go up. So I'm gonna get started with Todd.
So for quite a while, I have been having a private endeavor to go across Washington state and speak to as many school districts as I can to increase unhomed student recognition. So last night I visited the first school district, and I'm going to visit another one Monday and do my 3 minutes at the podium and see if I can make a dent in the world. So thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Anyone else with good trouble announcements to share with the group? Yeah, Jan.
I received a letter from the William Kilworth Foundation. Key Bank, as the trustee, is pleased to announce that the Pierce County Coalition to End Homelessness has been selected to receive a charitable donation of $5,000 in a separate mailing to be used for the inclement weather response.
Fantastic. That is great news. Thank you for that, Jan. And Ed, I see your hand up.
Yeah, just a couple of things. We're at 167 people that we'll be honoring for the homeless memorial. Those are folks that have died in the last year. And there are banners going up. One at down on Tacoma Ave, and then I think another one will go to Shiloh Baptist Church. So we ordered banners and they're going up.
Yeah, and again, hopefully folks can attend the memorial service to honor those folks this coming week.
Yeah.
And Jeffrey, your hand's up.
Hello, everyone. This is good news. I'm working with the city of Tacoma through Allison Griffith to make it easier for the churches in the city of Tacoma to house safe parking. This is to get it out of the permit process because it shouldn't be in the permit process. You already have a permit to have a parking lot. You don't need another permit to use it. And that was the argument I used, and the city listened. So I should be getting a draft document next week that the city would like me to look at in regards to increasing and helping churches do safe parking in the city of Tacoma. Thank you.
Thank you for your continued work on that, Jeffrey. Anyone else with items for the good of the order?
So Jeffrey, when you negotiated this, did the caller help?
Of course. Gets me in the door.
Whatever it takes, Jeffrey, whatever it takes. Teresa.
I just want to put this pitch out there that although I have abundance of socks, I have socks coming out of my ears. I'm still working on getting those holiday outreach bags together and could really still use some beanies and some hand warmers and a few other things. If you want to look at the list of things that we're still working on. Also, I'm having people make up some extra bags. So if you are going to be doing outreach to campsites, it's not for any day centers, it's just for overnight camping. If you want to check with me, I can let you know if someone else is already going there. And I can also set aside a few bags for you if you have, especially if you know of a small campsite that you tend to go to check, like do wellness checks or whatever. These bags, I'm going to make those $10 McDonald's cards go stretch as far as they possibly can. It depends on how many come in. So you may or may not get those, but you would get like socks and gloves and hand warmers and some Christmas candy, that sort of jazz. So I'll put my email in the chat. Be in touch with me if you're interested, and I will make this stretch as far as it will go. Even if in the end we end up giving out a bunch of socks with candy canes attached to them, I'll try to give you something. Anyway, thank you all everybody who's already helped and anybody who can between now and when they go out. Thanks.
Thank you, Teresa. And anyone else? Yeah, Courtney.
Yeah, donation of almost 200 backpacks from it, and me and my coworker have put some time into building up, put into the backpacks. So we don't have hats or gloves in them, but for what we have maybe 100 backpacks ready to go. So we have some supplies ready to go, but they would be nice if they were fleshed out a little more. And stored at the First United Methodist Church.
Great, thanks, Courtney. And if you want to drop just contact information for how people can get a hold of you to get you items for that, that'd probably be helpful in the chat. All right, so I want to wish everyone a safe and happy holiday season and a great new year. If you're not able to join us at the next couple of weeks short meetings, it's been great to see everybody and to work with everybody through 2022. I can't believe that the year is coming to a close. But you guys give me strength, and I know you're giving the folks in our community a lot of strength through these tough times. So thank you, everyone. As always, if you have the capacity and want to stay on the line in about 5 minutes, we will do a brief planning session for these last 2 meetings of the year. And otherwise, thank you, everyone, and have a happy holiday season.